everyone, I'm going to show you how to make a Cajun salmon cake with pumpkin inside. It's one of those things that just tastes really, really good and healthy, and you can make it ahead of time. You can freeze them, and you're using canned salmon instead of fresh salmon. Of course, if you wanted to use fresh, you can, but I thought I'd show you a way to use canned salmon if you've never used it before. I'll be honest, I didn't start using canned salmon until a few years ago. So when you buy a can of salmon, you can buy it boneless, skinless, but there's always still going to be bones and skins in it. So you can buy them in little 5-ounce cans, or you can buy this big can that's a 14.75, like 15-ounce can. We're going to drain it. I'm just pouring it in because what I want you to do is I'm going to show you what you're going to see if you've never opened one of these cans before. It can be quite shocking. It kind of reminds me of really fine cat food, I guess. It tastes amazing, believe me. So when you open up a can, what you're going to notice is in the middle, there's kind of like a circular roundabout. That's usually where that big bone. I want you to realize that the bone and the skin will completely disintegrate when you cook it. And so it's not like you're going to really taste it. But if you wanted to, you could go ahead, open it up right where it wants to open, and you'll see where there might be pin bones. And if there aren't, just, I don't like too much of the skin, but if you want, you can just kind of scrape that off. And then I'm going to break it apart into my pumpkin. Okay. So I'm going to go back in here, and this one actually does not have that many bones at all. Surprise, surprise. Okay. It just depends, but you just want to gently pull it apart. And sometimes you'll see these little round bones. So here we go. Here's what I wanted to show you. See this long line of bones. Now, even if you've got a little piece of that to your food, breaks apart. You won't even notice it. That's why we give these salmon cakes to kids sometimes. And there's nothing wrong, even if there's a little bit of bone. So I'm just going to break it up a little bit more to make sure there aren't any of those big bones or skins that I'm looking for. Again, you do this mainly for your own kind of feeling. It's like I said, it breaks apart in the food. It's not going to make a big difference. All right, so I'm going to move this bowl aside, put my can right there, and I'm going to bring this all forward, and I'm kind of breaking it apart by hand into my pumpkin. So I'm using canned pumpkin. You can use sweet potato if you want. Kabocha would also work, or even just a regular potato. And I'm gonna puree it. And you're gonna do about 1.25 cups, about 1.25 cups for about one large can of salmon like that. The best place to buy that canned salmon, I find, Costco. You can buy them in 5-ounce cans, and you can just make a little bit of it then. So that's all inside there. I'm going to make it Cajun by adding my Cajun seasoning. I've got a recipe online, so just check that out. I've got a little bit of onion that I'm also going to add in there, about 2 tablespoons. And I've also got, always happens when I pour in the Cajun seasoning. I'm not sick, I promise. It's just the Cajun seasoning has cayenne pepper, and when you sprinkle it and you inhale it at the same time, you got to be careful. All right, so I've got 1 egg that I'm also adding in there. I'm going to zest and juice 1 lemon. You can use a Meyer lemon too, give it some sweetness, really up to you. The reason why I like adding lemon to this dish is because it brightens up that spiciness from that Cajun seasoning that you might be adding in there. And if you don't want to use Cajun seasoning, don't add it. You can add whatever else. Smoked paprika would work, or you can skip it out altogether and just not make it Cajun. Now I'm going to add also a little bit of sun-dried tomatoes that have been packed in oil. I like this because it's that extra bit of fat that'll make this dish taste extra good. So I'm just finely chopping it. You can put it in your food processor if you want. If you've got like a sun-dried tomato pesto, you could even add that. That would be really good in here. All right, so I've got a good chop on that guy. And I'm gonna add that in as well. And my secret ingredient that makes this ultra healthy, oat flour. So instead of adding something like breadcrumbs or flour to bind it together, I'm gonna add oat flour, and I'm gonna use that to kind of soak up any of that extra pumpkin that might be in there. So I'm actually going to use a wooden spoon since I'm gonna form them by hand. So I'm just gonna mash this around, just like this. And then if you wanted to add more salt and pepper, go for it. But realize you've got a couple things in there that have salt already and pepper from that cayenne. So the canned salmon has a bit of saltiness to it, as well as the Cajun seasoning. So if you wanted to, you can add more. If not, just leave it as is. What's really good with this is like a remoulade sauce or something, like a yogurt dip, just to freshen it up. All right, so there we go. And if you're like me and you see a piece of skin in there and you're afraid your kids will see it, just take it to the side. That's all it is. All right, so I'm gonna get my pan ready now. So I'm gonna heat up a non-stick pan. You don't have to use non-stick. You can use a cast iron. You can even use a stainless steel. What I need you to remember though, if you're gonna use those, is that you wanna heat up your pan. Make sure it's hot. Hot pan. Then add your oil. Good squirt of oil in there. And then wait for your oil to get hot and then add your product in there, okay? So I'm gonna go in there. I'm using a 1/4 cup measuring spoon. It's up to you how much you wanna make these, but I find a 1/4 cup is about right. I'm gonna drop that in my hand and just pat it down and then gently lay it in the hot oil. So I've got about a 1/4 cup. I'll put it in my hand, pat it down gently, just like that, and then I'm gonna lay it in there. Now remember, if you're forming them while you're cooking them, keep your flame down to low once it's gotten hot enough, okay? Because you're gonna start burning them before you start flipping them. These bake really well too. So if you don't want to turn on your stove, it's too hot, whatever, form them, turn your oven on to 400 degrees, and you can bake them about 10, 15 minutes on each side. Remember to flip them though. The only thing in here that you really want to make sure you cook through is the egg. There's not anything else in here that's raw since the salmon's already cooked too. This recipe is easily replicated with fresh salmon, okay? So you just have to cook your fresh salmon and then flake it ahead of time. So you've got leftover cooked salmon, be great to do this with. And don't overcrowd your pan. You don't want them sticking to each other. So you should get about a good 9 to 10 cakes out of this. I'm just gonna move them around, give them a little bit of room, and let them sit. You only want to flip them once, because if you flip them too many times, they'll break. So I should be able to get a couple more out of that. And that's it. So you're just gonna let that cook down a little bit more. Add more as you feel needed. If you need more oil, add more oil. But these cook up really nice and easily. You've got them ready to go. To reheat them, just pop them right back in the oven. You can even put them in the microwave, or you can even reheat them on the stove. The other thing is they're really good cold. So you can even eat them cold. Just a snack, or you can have them for dinner. So it's really up to you. So here you are. Here's your amazing salmon cakes. If you've never used canned salmon, see you next time. Bye.